Economic Growth Infrastructure. Call the order at, was it 9:39? Call the roll.
Jackson? Here. Spiz is running a little late. Markham? Here. Powell?
Here.
Wyper?
Here.
Miller?
Here.
We have quorum.
We have a quorum. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have the next item is the approval of the minutes. Is there any corrections to the previous minutes?
No.
No corrections? Do we have, it's been moved by Commissioner Wyper, support by Commissioner Markham. We have to do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the agenda. Is there any changes or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, do we have a motion? It's been moved by Commissioner Jackson,
Support.
seconded by Commissioner Wyper. We do voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we'll move to public comment. Is there anybody in the public there that want to have a comment? All right, hearing none, we'll call the public comment closed. We need a motion to file the communication. We have the communication from the IT Executive Summary Report. Motion by Commissioner Jackson, supported by, or seconded by Commissioner Markham. We have a voice vote on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Well, now we'll go to the consent agreement. We need, or consent agenda, I'm sorry. We need approval for all the resolutions on the consent agenda, items 1A through 2D. Do we have need a motion? Moved by Commissioner Wyper, seconded Commissioner Jackson. And then there will be, we need a roll call on that.
Markham?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Wyper?
Yes.
Jackson? Yes. Spiz? Miller?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. There will be a public hearing, will be held at the Board of Commissioners meeting Thursday, May 23rd, 2019 at 9:30 a.m. for the pilot local road improvement projects 2019 1 through 2019-30, items 2A through 2D. All right, now we will go to our regular agenda. We need, we need a motion to move. All right,
Support.
supported by Wyper, so then we have our first item on the agenda is, I apologize, I did that backwards. It's, the Department of Information Technology, second quarter 2019 development appropriation transfer. Now we need a motion. Go back to the, okay,
You
all
got
right,
it,
all right, thank you.
Good morning,
Morning.
Commissioners.
Morning.
In front of you, you have our invoice for all of the work that took place this last quarter from the IT department. And if anyone has any questions in regard to this, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Do we have any questions? I just had one question.
Sure.
And it's just the IT's department portion.
Correct.
And I could think so, I'm just trying to make sure I understand. I thought the IT is like self-efficient, right? Like all the, what I wanna say is like, all the services, they pay for themselves?
Well, no,
Is
that's
it-
the G2G. So
Okay.
the G2G contracts, which you'll have some of those later.
All right.
That Mike will present, that actually, the revenue coming in covers all the cost of that program. The IT department delivers services to all 82 departments and divisions of county government, as well as the local communities. And we also have the CLEMAS law enforcement
Right.
effort, where almost 200 public safety agencies in 9 counties. So that's besides, the G2G is the self-sufficient part. This is the revenue for our development that we
Okay.
do for all the different departments and divisions. And in their non-controllable portion of their budget, M&B puts an allotment there for IT, and then we bill against that. And that allotment, then the revenue comes back into the IT fund to cover the cost.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of information we had.
Sure,
that
sure, no
commissioner's
problem.
Trainings, orientation, so I'm just trying to
It was like
remember.
that thick, if I remember.
It's still that thick, yeah. You have a question?
Do you
Commissioner
know
Powell?
why, possibly, I'm trying to look at that, I pulled it up for what we're discussing, but it kicks me straight back out, and I'm on my phone. Off the main website.
Is it doing the same to you?
Yep.
So we need to work with the commissioners. I think your team puts that packet together. We don't, so we'll have to talk to them about why that's happening, Commissioner. So we'll get into that.
Cause I'm having the same problem.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, cause
kicking
that
me
was
out.
what you just talked
So
about.
if I hit the, and I'm on my phone, I'm not even on none of the commission stuff, so. Okay,
Yeah, so it's a PDF that links to other portions of the PDF, so I don't know if there's a broken link or,
it's kicking us back to the main agenda
Right.
screen
yeah.
Right.
for us as
Okay.
commissioners.
And then did anybody have any other questions? Discussion?
No, at this point, I'm
I
gonna.
just have one more question.
Sure.
I noticed on the Pontiac, the sewer, the water, the WWTP, there's no, charge or cost of any of that. Is that, they're not on our system yet, is that why?
Well, no, so if there's no cost in the quarter, there'll be nothing in the invoice.
Right.
So if there was no work done that quarter, there
Okay.
wouldn't be any dollars in the invoice.
Right, I was just wondering if all theirs is zeros for year to date and everything, just wondering if they're
That's
not.
WRC?
No, it's Pontiac Sewer. So it's on
Yeah.
Pontiac Division, yeah.
Tammy Shepherd, our
Oh,
Manager of Application
thank you.
Services.
Would you step to a mic, please? I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Hit the button.
Tammy Shepherd, Manager of Application Services. So we actually have some cyclical GIS work that we do, or mapping work that we do. And so we have charge codes set up if we have to do specific mapping for that type of asset or for the assets in that wastewater treatment plant. But they are on the system. This we only charge if we actually have to do some changes to their system, to their mapping system. And so this is saying we haven't had to do any changes to their mapping system
Especially in this quarter.
in this quarter.
Thank you. Any other further questions? All right, call the roll.
Powell,
Yes.
Wyker,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. All right, so now we have our next agenda item. It's the Department of Information Technology Comprehensive IT Services. As this is recommended to the board, we need a motion. Motion by Spiz, seconded by Commissioner Jackson. Sorry.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Tim, Director of IT. So before you this morning, as we presented previously and discussed and kind of went through the overview, these IT service agreements are for other government agencies. This particular packet that we presented are 3 brand-new agreements that we have just begun entering into. Huron Township and Sumter Township, outside of the county, those are connecting to our OakNet fiber as well as new Clemis services. So they have gone through the Clemis Committee, which is really a separate committee of law enforcement agents and county representatives.
It's an advisory committee to the county.
Correct, thank you. And they have agreed they vote basically to allow these groups to enter into Clemis. And once they have agreed, then we do the IT service agreement to set up the IT portion of the Clemis support. So these agreements, the other new one we have is Jackson County. And Jackson County will be entering the G2G online payments and over-the-counter payments. So if you have any questions about those.
Any discussion? Commissioner
So
Whiteford.
those guys, they just don't have the ability to provide for themselves, or, I mean,
Well, one of the problems you have when there's many governments that don't do online payments. Believe it or not, there's many governments that don't want to touch credit cards. They don't want to do anything on the internet. So they haven't built up the foundation of what they need to actually go do it. And so what they've done is they've asked us to go ahead and provide that service because we provide to a number of entities around them, and they see that it's very successful. So they go ahead and they approach us, and we go ahead and set them up. And the setup's very low cost, and then we recoup on the enhanced access fees on the transactions.
Well, she got the minute.
Any other discussion? I just have a question. You mentioned Columbus votes on whether they
Yes.
come in or not. Has there ever been a, entity that was not voted in, and what's criteria?
That's a really good question, Commissioner, because the advisory board is made up of police chiefs, sheriffs, and the folks in fire, the ones that belong to the consortium. If they're not ready locally, if they're not prepared to go forward and put forth the local requirements, in other words, make sure everybody's available to work on the technology, to be trained and everything else, if they're not ready, they don't accept them. And that has happened in the past because an entity approaches but hasn't put forward the effort they need to go ahead and be ready to accept it. Because what we don't want to do is go invest in all the training and get them all up and operational and then find out they're not ready at the local level. So the advisory board looks at that very carefully. They meet with the leader of that local community, or the police chief or fire chief, and they work through that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Oh, one more thing, Commissioner, I apologize.
No
But
worries.
to answer your question fully, also capacity. There have been some larger entities that came to us early on in years past that we weren't ready to support them too. So we've actually said to some folks, we're gonna have to wait. So there are times when if we're not ready, we'll make sure that we don't add someone as well. So I wanna make sure.
So do we circle around to them
We do.
afterwards?
We do, we keep communicating with them, and when we change our capacity or our technological ability to serve them, then we reapproach them and we go forward.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll call the roll,
Okay.
please.
Wipers,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Markham. Yes. Powell,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Thank you,
Motion carries.
Commissioners.
Thank you.
you.
Now we have our next agenda item is Department of Information Technology, the imaging scanner replacement. We need a motion? Motion by Commissioner Spiz,
Support.
supported by Commissioner Wiper. Morning.
Good morning again. So what you have before you this morning is a resolution requesting the transfer of funds from an assigned fund balance and the front of the court to facilitate the purchase of some replacement scanners. We have 8 scanners that we use throughout the county, and they're used by various departments to scan documents, all the paper that we would traditionally be receiving. We scan those documents 2 million plus a year. We've been using the existing scanners for 8 to 13 years, and they need to be replaced. So we are asking for these funds to be transferred to facilitate the purchase and the first year of maintenance.
Any discussion?
I have a
Commissioner
couple
Spitz.
general questions.
Sure.
You mentioned 2 million documents a year.
That's not pages.
Okay, documents.
Yes.
Do we track the number of documents per year? Are we trending down? The reason I'm asking, are we trending down because we should be pushing to go somewhat paperless, which is also my other part of my question? And if we're not, do we or should we put a policy in place to start pushing towards that? So, because realistically, we should be doing a lot more things electronic. We get our minutes electronic, we get everything else electronic,
Right.
and things are starting to change throughout the industry. So are we driving towards that so we don't, in another 10, 15 years, have to replace these scanners again?
So we are trending up because
Trending up.
we're trending up because more entities are coming onto our imaging. So we have a large imaging effort that the board approved that is going to put an enterprise imaging platform in place that more entities in county government can be part of. That's already in process and we're already doing that. So the documents are gonna go up even more. Now, paperless. So we did explore some of that. One funny story, should I tell them? We were gonna call it paperless Oakland, but.
Oakland.
Yeah, Oakland, but it didn't quite fit.
Sorry.
There's no way to go completely paperless.
Agree.
So what we are going to do with the imaging and document management is we are working towards getting more entities to keep their documents and images. And the reason, twofold reasons why. One, easier access to the documents, and 2, cybersecurity. And I guess there's a third is disaster recovery. If for some reason we had a fire or a flood, which we've had here, we would lose documents. We don't want that to happen. So we're working diligently through our imaging program to bring more entities on so they can image their documents into the system. So you will see this go up over time. Now, scanning right now is because we still have stuff coming in by paper. Now, we are working also with our document management and imaging to fill these documents out online. The Friend of the Court was one of our early adventures in there where they're actually having the people now fill out their own forms online, and that's gone up incredible percentage over time that people are doing it online versus filing them in paper. But anything that is filed in paper has to be scanned, and then it has to be indexed so it's retrievable out of the imaging system. So that's what the process we're in right now. So we're gonna see this go up. I don't ever see us not having to buy scanners, because there's just some things that come in paper form. And if we're gonna keep those electronically, we're gonna have to scan them. Now, whether we're gonna need 8 of them or not is a different story depending upon how much filing goes on. We're also working with some e-filing that's going on in the courts and other areas where they're actually just e-filing from attorneys' offices, which is saving an incredible amount of time having to scan those documents as well. And these aren't just simple desktop scanners.
No, I know.
These are high-speed.
I know.
And then I have to say, the most difficult part of an imaging system, then in my mind, and they'll all correct me if I'm wrong, is the indexing. And the ability to get to those documents is the hard part, because you can scan paper all day long, but to be able to retrieve it when you need it for the right purpose is a whole management and organizational structure underneath. That's very important.
No, just one follow-up question, which everybody may not know. We're not going back in time scanning documents, it's only everything coming in now forward, right?
Actually, we are
We
doing
are.
some back-in-time
backup.
scanning for some departments that haven't had scanning traditionally, where they have these huge file systems, they're called a Lictreaver.
Lectreaver's the big rolling
And they're
file,
doing,
so-
I mean, they come in telling the stories how they're winding cranks to find files and how many minutes they're spending sorting paper, which again is a disaster recovery nightmare. If there were a flood in that building or something, goodness, right? Like, we couldn't have actual county records get lost. So we do still have departments where they have not traditionally done scanning, where we're scanning backlogs if necessary. But we also, every time that comes up, we do a cost analysis if it's cheaper to send it out. You know, if we had a huge a huge room of stuff to get scanned, we know how much it costs to do to outsource the scanning. Somebody comes in, takes all the files away, scans them for us. So we've always done that type of analysis as well.
And for the new commissioners, the first entity to go into scanning images was the Friend of the Court. And I was in the building back when I worked at Equalization. I was in the same building with Friend of the Court, and the entire second floor of the building was Lectreavers. There had to be 20 to 30 Lectreavers just full of documents, and those were all gone when we started the imaging. It was millions of documents that got imaged, and so they didn't have to have the whole building full of Lectreavers anymore. It's a pretty amazing thing.
And Commissioner, if I might add something too, just take a step back a little bit and not focused on imaging, but general technology. And to Commissioner Spiz's question, we also do have several major initiatives. Two that come to mind are around our GIS platform that we have presented some resolutions here recently. GIS is an example of a technology where we are eliminating paper, and all of that mapping is being done electronically. Another project that we have going on, a very major expenditure, is our implementation of our new financial and human capital system. We're replacing PeopleSoft, which is a 15, 20-year legacy system. So there are some major initiatives that we are eliminating paper, but this is one where we're still doing the electronic imaging of the paper that we have.
Yeah, any time where we can remove a paper step, we do. There are still steps that, we receive letters from people. And we're always gonna have to scan those, right? And they're part of the file. So a lot of these are court cases, juvenile adoptions, things like that, where, we have to have the bench warrant or a bench warrant printed for some reason. That's getting scanned, even though we have the data. There's some requirements for it, so. But anytime we can break that down and say, do e-signature, things like that, we are certainly looking for those opportunities to reduce the scanning footprint and actually just keeping the data in one place and integrating with it rather than printing a report or something like that, so.
We have other questions? Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Chair.
ma'am.
It's always great to hear about the work that you do to help make our county more efficient with technology. I'm excited because we have our workforce or economic development people in the House along with you. And I know that last week, we had a Tech 248 event at the airport, and I would like to know, how is that going as far as just, because we had a NOBCO conference. NOBCO is the National Organization of Black County Officials, here in Detroit last week, and one of the main seminars was about technology in the marketplace, and there was a lot of talk about strategic technology initiatives to kind of embrace the next generation in technology, in the technology field. And I know Tech 48, 248 has that as one of their initiatives. So are you collaborating more and more, looking at that and helping to get maybe the workforce and economic development people tied together with technology in a strategic way to help our residents? I know we could do it through Michigan Works and places like that, but just as far as from the economic development umbrella on down, just like to hear about it, because when we first got introduced to Tech 248, there was a component that really wanted to embrace the younger people, and we were kind of like tossing around what programs help with that. And so since all you guys are here at one time, I just wanted to pose that question. Is there anything that we can look forward to that you're working on?
Thank you for that question. That kind of fits into my universe.
All right, yes.
Can you introduce yourself first?
Yeah, I'm Deputy County Executive for Economic Development and Community Affairs, and Tech 248 is part of our, one of our business development unit initiatives. It's basically was set up to a B2B type of relationship where the conversation occurred and the networking and the conversation occurred with those businesses that are really on the cutting edge in many ways of either developing their business or developing the technology that is supporting their business. And so it's basically a networking platform where on a monthly basis they get together, and it goes out as a call for those that are interested, and it is hosted oftentimes by a company that likes to show off their facilities or what they're doing and let everybody else into really their business development and their business strategy. And so from that then generates other ideas and other relationships, whether it's a vendor, a supplier relationship, or even an R&D relationship. And it's so it basically is set up as a basic idea generating platform for people to connect with each other. We see a lot of spin-offs from that. And by the way, Tech 248 isn't just pure what we think of as technology or IT. It also includes a lot of the R&D that is going on and a lot of the business development that's going on. And so for those who are interested, I continue to extend the invitation to be part of it and to make yourselves available to be part of that morning or that afternoon. And in fact, I believe there is a Tech 248 gathering on Thursday, if I remember right, at iWorks in the afternoon. So we can, again, make everybody that information available to everyone. And if you haven't had a chance to
I was just waving at the commissioner. No, I'm just, after you're done.
So, you're, okay. I'm gonna always sit behind you now, Phil. Anyway, the point is this, it's a great communication platform and an interactive, very interactive. And really the spin-offs, you don't, the talk starts there, it doesn't end there. And so for those that are in a really curious stage, it represents a really interesting opportunity.
Thank you.
So commissioners, if I could add as well, and to go back to your question, Commissioner, about young people and technology. A couple things. One, the technology is shifting so fast that STEM education is struggling to keep up with it. But there's still foundational skills they need to learn in science, technology, and math to make sure that they do the right thing to get into technology. But here's an alarming stat for you. I work a lot with the Michigan Council of Women in Technology, MCWT. And if you know some folks in your area, there's young women that are trying to get into technology. This group works with schools to encourage young women, because right now, the trend is we have less young women going into technology than we've had in the past. So so that means it's going down. That's not good. So MCWT has a number of events, and they go work in the schools to try to engage young women to get them involved in the world of STEM and technology, and that's something we need to look at. But the technology is shifting so fast, so what is the technology of tomorrow? And what they may be learning in school may be obsolete by the time they get to college. By the time they finish college, the technology they learned as a freshman is gonna be obsolete by the time they're a senior. But the underpinnings of what we're looking for is very important, is they have to have the foundation in science and math. They also then have to have the people skills or the soft skills. I'm gonna be going to a conference in Los Angeles, which is the GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association. They have an entire track on technology, and one of the messages I'm gonna send is that we need them to be educated in the soft skills and the people skills as well. If you look at the IT department today, we have more of a mix of business analysts and project managers than we do of programmers. And the reason is because it's no longer that I can just go build this technology from scratch, is I have to find out what they need, I have to find out how to change the business process to accept it, and then I have to build or implement the proper technology to get it done. So when you're working with your schools in your districts, if you could emphasize the fact that, one, we need young women to be involved in technology. It's good for their careers, it's good for us. And if you look at our IT department, we have a number of women that have gone into the higher echelons of IT because they have those skills. And what we also need then is we need them to make sure that the students aren't getting disillusioned by the fact that they're learning about artificial intelligence or cognitive computing, and they're getting out into the workplace and barely anybody's using it right now. So what happens is they learn these wonderful technologies and on this awesome technology they have at school, and they get out into the real world to find out the real world hasn't gone there yet. So there's a whole education piece, and that's why I think Tech 248 is very important. And the reason being is there's this new generation of technology employee that's starting to get involved in networking events like Tech 248, which is the primary way they're gonna get to meet other people and talk about what's going on in other industries. So we have a focus on it here at Oakland County, where we want young people. We do a number of interns each year. We work with schools. We have the MSU College of Communications, Arts, and Sciences have what we call I'm trying to remember what they call it, a capstone project. Thank you, Jeanette. It's a capstone project. We've been doing it for 15 years. And every year, I interview the students when it's all done. The majority of them now are looking to stay in Michigan, which is cool. But the second thing for all of the commissioners here is that we've implemented all 15 results from the students. We've actually implemented at IT. So we're using this younger generation, giving them real-world experience in a capstone project. They get graded for that as part of their curriculum. And then we've even, over time, have hired a number of them to work for us to help us implement what they've discovered for us. So we're trying to do that. It's just difficult to, as it's moving so fast. Tammy, you want to add?
Yeah, just one more thing to add in terms of things that we're doing with the youth in the county. Actually, Oakland Schools has a few different kind of hubs around the county, and actually Karen.
Technical campuses.
Thank you, a technical campus. Karen and one of our developers is going to be partnering with Oakland Schools because they have an actual programming class. They have a cohort of very bright students at the Pontiac campus, and Karen and one of our developers is going to be over there doing a code review because they've been working on like a class project all semester. So I've had the opportunity to meet with the instructors and talk to them about how we can sort of engage in a partnership and just understand kind of from a business perspective, that's a good business perspective for them to have people in the industry that their students can collaborate with. And then it's great for us to see what the students are learning and just, encourage people to come into government and get these bright minds thinking about the fact that Oakland County could be a great place for them to come and work, so.
And think about that for 1 second, because government was never seen to be innovative. Everybody always looks at government last. We have the most innovative IT department in the country, and I'll say that out loud, and I've talked to people all over the country. They are envious of what we have.
Would they agree with you at NACO for that?
They would agree.
You got that little competition going.
Yeah, we do. But we have the most innovative staff, so there's some things that we can do. We have flexible work schedules. We do telework. We have flexible work hours. We have redesigned part of our building that the commissioners has approved, where we put sit-to-stand desks and pods in, so they could work as teams. We've also then leveraged them as much as we can, this new generation of employee, and we're trying to do that because we can be just as innovative, but you can still go home and have dinner with your family. Because there's a reason why at Google, you're never more than 150 feet away from food, and why there's a dry cleaner on the first floor, and a daycare, and an animal babysitter on the first floor, is because they don't want you to leave. We can create the same environment, we can be very innovative and be the most innovative in government, and yet they can still have a quality of life and a work-life balance. That's what we're after at
So
Oakland County.
when are we putting in the dry cleaner?
Nah.
Just one more thing.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that because we do have to fertilize our young people. And Tech 248, the opportunity to maybe catalog all of those entities that foster that education, that help partner these young people with businesses for opportunities would be a good umbrella for that, because I think in the conversation just now, maybe 4 different things were mentioned, 4 different entities and programs, and it would be good to have it all up under one search that the county offered. So maybe we could work on that to help our young people get into this field.
I think there's another salient.
Well, let me, I don't mean to, I just want to do this agenda item, and then we can maybe do this in other business, just to make sure we get, I want to make sure we get this done, because,
Oh, yeah,
for
I'm
time
sorry.
reasons. No, it's
Yeah.
great questions and stuff. I just want to make sure we get through this, and then we have the next one for other business. So I would
And
just,
Commissioner Powell, you had a question.
yeah, Commissioner
too.
Powell has a
Oh,
question
no,
as
I'm
well.
okay.
Okay. I just had a couple
subject.
I just want to
I
lose the
I see
scanning
what's
imaging,
being
right?
Like, oh
It's
yes,
all
we haven't
subject
voted on the
outside.
scanners yet.
Right, yeah. I just want to get that voted on, and then let's continue.
Gotcha.
Great
Yeah,
talk, though.
So, I just have a question, so we're scanning all this stuff in, what's the security on it? If, say there is a flood and we lose those documents, and then there's a security breach. I know we have the best IT, but just in.
Well,
say
so we
it
do
is.
have cybersecurity and very thorough cybersecurity. And it also depends on what documents and what information is incorporated in those documents. Is it CGIS data? It depends on what's there, and it depends on the security from there. So we have followed NIST, and we're following all the proper protocols for security for the documents. We have disaster recovery in place. So we can actually recover if something happens, and we always plan if our building was hit by a tornado and it's gone. Now what do? We have that plan in place, and we've exercised that plan to make sure that we can recover the documents. Paper documents are a different thing. And we had a flood in the courthouse just a couple years back, where we had to hire a company to come in and dry our documents page by page. We don't want to do that. So that's why we're going so hard on the imaging front and trying to do document management in that regard. It's safer in an electronic form, and we have the proper cybersecurity protocols in place, and we have the proper disaster recovery in place. And one last thing, Commissioners, is we also have the proper business continuity recovery plans in place that marry with it. So if for some reason the technology is not available, there are workarounds for the technology not being there to be able to still perform their functions. All those things are in place.
Thank you. And then you asked for, you mentioned a 1-year maintenance. Is that 1 year outside of the warranty, or is that,
So that's just our standard practice to include in the resolution in the transfer of funds that we pay 1 year 1 year of maintenance, and then we'll pay ongoing maintenance on the hardware, the software, and there's an actual rate that has been developed by fiscal services
And we
for
bill back.
replacement to be rebuilt, so.
So it would be billed back in our quarterly, it would be billed back to the departments that use the scanners.
But
Okay,
for
so
the
it's not a
purposes of the
constant.
fund transfer, we just transfer 1 year.
okay.
If I
Commissioner
could,
Spiz?
if I'm not mistaken, from a software perspective, there's annual maintenance that you have to pay every year ongoing, no matter what.
Exactly.
Correct.
To maintain that software?
Yep, and that's
a
being
normal
built
function
in.
for the software industry.
Yep.
Right,
And-
and now, as far as the warranty goes, Commissioner, you're correct, there is a warranty on the actual hardware itself, but we do have to maintain it beyond that, because these will live beyond the warranty. Yep.
Right.
It's just from a budgetary practice, this is transferring money. Heretofore, after this year, we build the funding into the budget through the regular budgetary process.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on agenda item? All right,
Jackson,
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Markham. Powell,
Yes.
Wypert.
Yes.
Miller.
yes. Motion carries.
Thank you,
Now we got our other business. We're gonna continue our conversation. You sure? Okay. Everybody good? Oh, yeah, Commissioner Powell, you did have
Oh,
a
no, I'm
question.
okay.
Okay, she's okay.
Other business, it's open.
No, it's
Yeah.
fine. I can talk to him.
Well,
I just have a quick little comment.
yeah, go ahead.
Something you said about how, we're really encouraging young women to get involved in tech. So I graduated from college, I'm gonna confess, in 1975. And my first job was at General Motors because they were looking for women engineers. I thought we'd be past that by now. I really do. But that's just my comment of the day.
Well, Commissioner, if I could,
I was the only one in
Yeah.
a building of 400 people. I was the only female engineer.
yeah. And so,
I could too, once
go
you-
ahead. Yeah, but Commissioner, my point on this is that women have certain skills
No,
that
I
some
get
men
it.
don't have. And if we don't encourage them to get into technology, we won't ever be able to benefit from that. That's why that's why I put this staff up against anyone with our abilities. But the sad part is, it's happening in the elementary and middle schools. They're getting discouraged from math and science in the elementary and middle school level. So the MCWT, Michigan Council of Women in Technology, they were working with high schools. They've now ratcheted down to middle schools. Because that's where they're losing their interest. They're not losing it at the 9th grade, they're losing it in the 6th grade.
It hasn't changed.
Yeah.
No, it's just, I mean, in my industry, it's just, there's not enough women that get into the field. I mean, we still can't find women engineers. We're looking to bring them in, from internships to co-ops to anything, and there's just not a lot out there looking for that type of opportunities.
And I think
No matter how much we ask.
you hit on it because every step of the way, as they're growing up, there's all kinds of pressure to do other things besides math and science.
Yeah.
Right.
So anything you can do to continue to lift that up, I really appreciate.
And Commissioner, and the reason I bring up MCWT, because I think all of you should be aware of them as well. I've been working with them for years. I go to their outings and I go to some of their events to try to do this, but it's interesting is that we were making a trend and the trend was going up, and then all of a sudden it flattened and started to go down, and I just don't understand what's happening. So they're now ratcheting up their efforts, and I'm hoping and we're gonna help them if we can.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other further business? Nope.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So regarding your packets and downloading them from the server or anything like that, it's best, I think we actually have gone to IT about it before. I just talked with Tracy and we did weigh in. And they advise that the best thing to do is to download it to Adobe through your iPad or your phone and then open it up that way. One aspect to that is oftentimes you do have to purge some of the old agendas and old packets. When it gets too many, it may take a very long time to load up the current one that you're trying to look through. So that's just to answer Commissioner Powell's concern. Yeah.
Well,
And then-
there is an Adobe app for iPhones and for the iPads. So, but I don't know exactly how we have to do that, but that's because the functionality in the PDF is trying to use Adobe functionality to do that. That's something we can look at. I think we should look at longer term, a better way to do that. But right now, Adobe is our standard, so that's what, that could be the bigger problem.
And I think also just to go in addition to that is if you are using our MiFi instead of the county wireless, that might present or maybe fix any kind of connection issues that would come up where you are maybe getting redirected based upon that as well. I'm not sure if that's
Should,
something
Wi-Fi
that would
shouldn't do
happen,
it, because that's simply the internet.
That's too much. to
just
figure out right
something maybe to think about, so.
Maybe, it won't.
Trying to look, it depends on how big the file is.
Depends on how many people are trying to load it.
If you got a lot of those pictures, like it's too slow, it's gonna kick you out. It's better to download it, and run it right on your device.
Is there any other
Yeah,
further
I'm-
business?
Right now, I'm just waiting on to
It-
get adjourned.
If no other business, we'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.